Alright, yeah, so the first thing I did was I separated the multicolored spells since there's only a few of them. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the cards that I don't think are main deck playable. So, this one's a maybe. This one's not very good. Medic is pretty deck dependent. I guess so is the Lookout. And yeah. So I'll just do that now. This card's not very good. The rest of these are fine. And I'm not like 100% not playing these cards, but I'll be very hard pressed to play them. Yeah, Goblin Warpaint's not very good. Destroy a land. Okay. Then we go to green. Yeah, I guess all these are playable, but I'm not a very big fan of all the expensive cards in this format. I have a few lands. The first thing that jumps to mind for me is like trying to see if I can fit either of these into a deck, like either blue-red Devoid or blue-black Devoid. So now I'm just gonna go through all my Devoid cards and see what I got. Definitely got a few good ones in red. In black, I have Disregard, Drone. Birthings are fine, but they're not great. Swarm Surge, I think, is somewhat deck dependent. Then in blue, I have some Incubator Drones, a Spell Shrivel, and a Reclaimer. So not much by way of Devoid in blue. And then when it comes to green, I don't really think there's any green Devoid strategy you can really implement. Behemoth is great, Channeler is great. The rest are just fine. So let me see what a blue-red Devoid deck would look like. It might end up having to be 3 colors, maybe. Let's see. So far from what I can tell, it's probably not going to work out. Exert Influence is pretty nice. Wind Patrol.
If you are not at your table by the end of this announcement, you will be targeted for a match. Again, you need to be at your table.
Yeah, I can already tell that there just isn't enough support for this theme. Looking at the white, looks okay. So yeah, I don't think this is gonna work out. I can also play these. I can play this. Let me just take a quick look and see how many cards this would be. I would definitely play Disregard in this deck. It's 19 cards, so it would be possible to play something along these lines. I'm a very big fan of 19 land decks in this format, even in draft. And I have played 20 lands before, but as good as my red cards are, I just don't know if there's going to be enough support for this. So let's see what else I can come up with. So let's just put everything back together. Okay. As far as I can see, my blue does look very good, so I'm definitely happy about that. Okay. Just looking at my white real quick, it just doesn't look very good at all. The only reasons I want to be white is probably just like the drawn as emissary. And there could be a black-white allies deck. I do have 2 healers, emissary, night watch, complete disregard. I have the indestructible hero, court castigator. So I guess I'll just take a quick look at that and see if I can do anything with that. Sentinel's pretty great. So just a quick note, I don't have any evolving wilds, which is definitely a card you want in sealed. Yeah, that's definitely the big problem with sealed versus draft in this format, is that, you know, all the decks are trying to be as synergistic as possible, and it's just obviously hard to get all the cards you need out of a sealed pool sometimes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I probably could play these. Yeah, they're just definitely, there isn't enough support for that in this pool. So I'll go ahead and scratch that. So yeah, I'm probably not going to end up playing white. Yeah, my green is just not very playable at all. Yeah, so far it looks like blue and red are my best colors, so I might just try and make just a solid blue-red deck, but not so much centered around Devoid. I know I have the Tide color, which is a really strong card, but I think the only awakened spell I have is the Clutch of the Clutch of the Currents. So it might still be enough to play it, though. It's still a 2/3 for 3, so it still does something. I am a fan of like these incubator drones with these behemoths, the channeler. Anticipates a nice filler card. Tightening Coils is a very strong removal spell, in my opinion. Let's see. I could play the Processor, I'm not sure about that yet. I'm not a big fan of the Spoiler because it's just not high impact enough when you don't get to process with it. Touch of the Void is great. Nettle Drone is still pretty good on even without having a centered Devoid theme. GOP is fine. Turn against is pretty solid, but that effect is not as good as it's been in previous draft formats. Yeah, obviously I'll be playing these for sure. Let's see where I'm at here. I guess it is nice having the Herald with like these Ruin Processors and Behemoths. Like playing this guy on 5 is just insane. You could even play it on 4. Yeah, 3. No, just 5. Never mind. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Alright, this is 21. 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, 21. This deck might look a little creature light, but this is basically a creature, which is like another reason why I really like having a lot of lands in this format is when you have awakened spells, you want more lands so you can be able to, you know, assure yourself of being able to cast them on time. Yeah, I definitely don't want Salvage Drone in this deck. It is possible that I could splash black. I mean, Fathom Feeder is obviously really good. I have a complete disregard. Demon's Grasp, I could splash. And I guess Exert Influence gets better when I do splash, so it's possible. I might just play the Sentinel just to have more early game, just so I don't get run over by any decks with a strong curve. I don't think I have enough support for the nursery, so I'm kind of off that. I'm a big fan of all these lands, except for the black tap land. I'm not a big fan of that one. Obviously, I can't play these. Nothing in green I want to splash with a Cinderglade. Dispel's possible main deck card for me. I don't think I have enough ways to exile to make the Reclaimer good. So let's see. Yeah, blue, in my opinion, blue's the best color, so I'm definitely happy with the blue cards I got. Alright, this is 23, so I definitely want to cut at least one card. Yeah, honestly, I might actually end up cutting the Influence just because it's not that good for just 2 mana, and there's nothing I really want to splash. I could potentially play it off of like the Sandbridge as like just a colorless land, as a just for its effect, but I'm not sure that's good enough. Yeah, my black's not very great either. It's kind of unfortunate not to get to play this Fathom Feeder though. This is 22 now. Yeah, the Tide color might be a stretch. Not really sure about this Dispel, but I'll probably be citing it in a lot, I assume. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of having too many big creatures in my deck, so I'm probably not gonna play either of these over here. Any of these Eldrazi Devastators or Despoiler. I definitely have enough big creatures to finish the game with. Yeah, especially with all the tap lands I have, I definitely think I want to play 19 lands, because I do want to be able to cast my spells in time as well. So I'll probably end up just cutting the Anticipate since I don't really need it. Although it is a good card, I'm a fan of it. Let's see. Yeah, this is 21 plus the lands. Yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with this build. Just do one more quick check before I lock it in. Not a big fan of any of these. I guess let's count my devoid spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I guess I could see a world where I side in the nursery, but I don't think I'm going to start at main deck. It's very possible I shouldn't be playing the Tide Collar, but if I ever do get the clutch back with it, it's just going to be really, really powerful. So I think I'm good to go with this.
Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at Grand Prix Atlanta. I'm Nick Miller alongside Christian Calcano. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. You're coming off a second place finish at Grand Prix Seattle, of course. You've already got a limited win under your belt this year.
Yeah.
You're here playing some Battle for Zendikar Limited. We saw you just build your sealed deck. And a couple of questions here first. We saw you, lay the pool out. You immediately kind of zoned in on the Devoid deck. So you really liked your red. Talk about how you came to the conclusion to end up on blue-red. You also were kind of toying with black as well.
Sure. Now, yeah, because the cards that jumped out to me immediately when I saw my pool was the Brutal Expulsion, Herald of Kozilek, and a Touch of the Void, Nettle Drone. And then in black, I also had like Fathom Feeder, Complete Disregard. So, right off the bat, I saw, okay, like I have some very good, powerful like Devoid spells. So the first thing I wanted to see was all the color spells I had available to me and see if I could possibly just make an all-out Devoid deck. But unfortunately, I definitely didn't have enough support for that. Like especially in my black, I only had a Culling Drone, Complete Disregard, and Fathom Feeder. I also had no fixing, so I just decided, to not play the black and just go straight blue-red and just play the best cards, in those colors, which ended up being the two best colors in my pool.
All right, that's an interesting decision. You get to the point where you immediately realized I don't quite have the critical mass of cards for the blue-red deck, so you're kind of toying around, but you also realized you don't have the mana to really necessitate a third color, so you kind of just said, I'm going to go with the strongest two colors I have. You went with it. You have this pretty nice blue-red deck. You got like 14 or 15 colorless spells, somewhere in that range. So you've got a lot of synergy, but you also have a really nice top end here. You have two of the Deathless Behemoth.
Yeah, the card's great.
6/6. It's got Vigilance. You can bring it back. Now, I don't know if you quite have the tools to bring it back, but just as a big beater that you can pay for pretty cheap, you got the drones and the Herald to let you play it cheaper too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the drones also, if I do get to a scenario where I draw both of them, I could bring back the Behemoth by second those, and having the Herald is nice to be able to play it on turn 5. I can definitely imagine how difficult it would be for my opponents to deal with a card like that on turn 5. It's pretty brutal to deal with it on turn 6, so I'm pretty excited about how my deck ended up.
Right, you also got the 4/3 flyer here. We got the Wind Rider Patrol. It's a really good finisher. And then you only went with one of like your big Eldrazi. You had a couple at the top of the curve, but you chose to go with the 7-drop here, Ruin Processor. Your thought process is you just don't want too much of the high end.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the super expensive spells. I just, I don't want to end up like losing games where they're stuck in my hand. So I just went with the less expensive ones, like the Processor, and obviously the Behemoth is the best one out of all the ones I had. But yeah, I just feel like 8 mana is just too much for that kind of a creature, so I just didn't want to play it. And I think I have enough finishers with like the Processor, Behemoths, the Patrol. I also have Clutch of Currents, and I have a Tie Caller to bring it back. So I think I have enough late game to finish out games.
So what's your game plan here? You got a little bit of cheap removal as well. You got the 2 coils, you have the Brutal Expulsion, the Touch of the Void. You just looking to kind of control the early steps of the game and then just close it out with your Behemoths?
Yeah, pretty much. I also have like a Sentinel. This is kind of like a removal spell too in my deck. Like he's definitely not going to be attacking much, so he's just there like as an early game spell to hold down the ground and just like make sure I survive until the later turns, where I could just play a Behemoth for a Processor and just take over the game. So that's pretty much my plan.
Okay, so overall this format, how many sealed decks have you played? How much drafting of this format have you done?
Unfortunately, like for sealed decks, I haven't done many. Like I did the Grand Prix in Madison, and I did a couple of pre-release sealeds. But after that, I didn't really do any. But I did do a bunch of drafting, obviously for the Pro Tour, and then since the Pro Tour, I've done a lot of drafts. So, I definitely like my chances in this tournament if I make it a day 2. And I think my pool is good enough to get me there, so, hopefully this weekend goes well.
Yeah, speaking of making it to day 2, what would if you had a grade to give to this deck, what would you give it to before you've played any matches?
I'd probably say like it's tough because like the deck's, I think the deck's pretty solid, but I don't think it's like insane. Like I wouldn't say it's a 9-0 deck. But I'd probably say it's like an A- or something, or B+. I could probably go 8-1 with this. So, but I hopefully, like even if I do 7-2, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. as long as I get to the draft rounds.
Right. When you opened up the pool, was there anything in particular you're looking for? Is there a strategy you like, or are you just kind of open to anything at this point?
I mean, in general, I'm a really big fan of Awaken, like blue-white Awaken specifically. So I was pretty happy at the Tide color, but then I looked at my white and there was like no shear drops, no Ondu Rising, no Royal Spouts.
Right.
So that didn't work out, but I'm still happy with what I got. So I definitely have a lot of good cards. Like Brutal Expulsion is really, really strong. And I have, a couple of removal spells and touch and tightening coils turn against, so I think my deck's solid.
Well, the deck looks great. You're coming in as probably one of the most hot players on the scene, so looks like you're pretty well positioned. Cedric thinks you're the lock to win the tournament, so you got a lot of confidence going in. Thanks for joining us here in the sideboard, and thanks for building the deck for everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Atlanta.